war has been going on, Chuck, for 8 months. The government hasn't been able to resolve it. It's between the sons of El Chapo and also El Mayo Zambada. That is used to be his best friend, the son of El Chapo, who was captured, and he gave El Mayo Zambada to the American authorities. Now, just not too long ago, around like 3 weeks ago, 17 family members of El Chapo Guzman family delivered themselves in the San Isidro port of entry to the American authorities. It speculates that they were kind of like a plea deal with the American authorities to come into an agreement to safeguard their family members. But also now everything is opening up. The Joaquin Guzman Lopez, one of the sons of El Chapo, just clearly made it without getting the life sentence and also the death penalty. So they just took away the death penalty from one of the sons of El Chapo, and it takes you to the understanding that possibly the agreement was, bring my family, I will cooperate with the American authorities, but just don't give me the life sentence. But the war in Culiacan, Chuck, it is escalating. It's still continuing.
So they were seeking the death penalty for him because his organization has been responsible for a large percentage of the fentanyl that comes into the United States. And so he's indirectly responsible, at the very least, for literally hundreds of thousands of dead Americans. And they're taking that very seriously. Now, the U.S. has been putting a lot of pressure on the new administration in Mexico under Sheinbaum. And now, I was doing some reading, and before, under AMLO, that he had been captured in Culiacan, and then the people, his people, were threatening to burn the whole place down, and so AMLO let him go. The former president just let him free. Is that right?
Yeah, the son of Ovidio Guzman, he was the one that was captured, and then he was released, and the justification of the president was to keep the peace between the organized crime, the cartel, and the government of Mexico. And just for you to understand, Chuck, how aggravating this is, they asked the president before he left the presidency why he doesn't, take care of this problem in the middle of the country. And he said, we're trying to let them figure that out upon themselves. And when they finish their war, we will go in there and negotiate with them. So we're talking about that the government of Mexico is letting the cartel do whatever the hell they want in the country. Violence, escalating murders, mass graves, everything, and the distribution of narcotics. And the government is letting them do that, letting them until they just basically annihilate each other. And then later on, try to negotiate. So yes, it is pretty aggravating the negotiations, what they have done.
Now, there's been a lot of talk about the U.S. military actually getting involved on the ground in Mexico. As far as I know, we actually do have some troops in Mexico that are training the Mexican Special Forces and Marines to go after these guys. But have you heard anything about American troops actually taking part in any of these operations?
Yes, and the president of Mexico was challenged on that just when it happens. The president of Mexico has been completely negligent to say, you know what, we're not going to allow no American troops to enter our sovereignty. 3 weeks after that, consistently on every morning conference, 3 weeks after that, saying that, there was a post on one of the biggest pages on ICE immigration officials. It has almost an X. It has almost like 1 million, followers on that page, and they posted that there was an operation of ICE agents collaborating with Mexican authorities to dismantle 3 laboratories inside of the port of Culiacan, which on the next day they challenged the president to say, what happened? You told us that you were not going to let in no American authorities. And she said, no, that is a speculation, that is fake news, that is false information, which later on was found out that it was actually accurate. There were, American troops coming in, and there's something going on, Chuck. Like, she doesn't want the Mexican people to know that they actually need help to eliminate these cartels. But to her fan base or to her actual followers, she's saying, she's going on this speech of first is the sovereignty, first is the nation, first is this and that.
Now, she's a liberal without a doubt. AMLO was as well. Is it the fact that she's actually working with the United States a little bit, at least kind of under the table, is that an indication that she's more friendly to Donald Trump, or just is concerned about the ramifications of not cooperating with the Trump administration.
The thing is, Chuck, that they are finding out the dirty politicians and the corrupt politicians. Just not too long ago, they revoked the visa of the governor of Baja, and the speculation is strong, Chuck. The speculation is that her husband was trafficking gasoline all the way through Canada, and also they have a lot of money laundering accounts inside of the United States of America. So the government of the United States has a justification, underneath and closed doors, possibly their dialogue, and saying, you know what, I have this dirty work on your governors or your mayors or these politicians. If you don't cooperate, and we are going to expose them. And the governor of Baja just got massively exposed over here. Her visa is revoked. She cannot enter. She's asking the administration of Trump to give her an explanation. The United States of America doesn't have no obligation whatsoever to say, you know what, you are this, you are that. The only thing that they're saying is that she's under a really meticulous investigation because of the speculations of enormous trafficking of gasoline, also, relations with the organized crime and the cartel. So I believe that because of that, the Trump administration has them on this leash to say, you know what, either you negotiate or we will just start exposing these dirty politicians.
Now that's really amazing. I mean, we're able to bring that kind of pressure to bear. I mean, it worked in the first administration of Trump when he put that kind of pressure on AMLO, and AMLO took steps to slow down the flow of migrants. And I've heard it said that AMLO hated Americans, but also hated Central Americans, and so he would kind of try to play both sides of the fence. He would sometimes let those migrants flow freely through Mexico, and then sometimes he would send the National Guard out to put a stop to it at the southern border of Mexico. You and I have been to Tapachula and have seen that. And I wonder about Sheinbaum. So, I felt like AMLO was in the pocket of the cartels. You can tell me if I'm wrong on that, but I mean, I felt like it was kind of obvious that the things that he does, he won't take steps to actually go after these guys. Like you said, he was like, well, let them take care of each other. Do you think Sheinbaum is also in the pocket of the cartels? She's just getting this additional pressure from the Trump administration, or what?
Absolutely, Chuck. And in the past administration, AMLO had 211,000 murders under his homicides under his 6 years. Now, there's another thing that is being exposed, and every Mexican now, it is opening up their eyes to see this is a narco government, and the way that they're playing around with the homicide statistics, Chuck, it is pretty incredible what they have done, because they are showing to the United Nations, and the United Nations is in cahoots with this. They're talking about enormous corruption to slow down and to lower down the homicide rates. What they're doing is that every single intentional homicide, they're categorizing it as a negligent homicide or an involuntary manslaughter. So when it shows to the numbers and the statistics, you're showing that, you don't have no intentional homicides. So you're really taking care of the violence and the cartels. So it is actually protecting the cartels, and is strategically showing to Trump, you know what, this is what I'm lowering down the numbers. Meanwhile, the actual reality is on the other side. So she's basically doing everything that she can to protect these criminal organizations, because it is obvious that she was politically funded by El Mayo Zambada, that is the kingpin that the United States has right now under in prison. And it's obvious that AMLO also, the speculation was wrong, that he was also politically funded by El Chapo and also by El Mayo.
That's amazing. I mean, the thought that it's just such an industry. I mean, this is not a bunch of criminals that are running around in the dead of night. This is an absolute industry that has grown up in Mexico and is basically part and parcel of the government of Mexico. It's just all kind of one big monster. I know that they just so in Culiacan, they have been decimating the leadership of the CJNG down there. They've got special forces in there doing raids on a weekly basis. They just knocked over a fentanyl facility that was, they said it was like a huge factory. I mean, this was not some little thing out in the jungle with a tarp over it. This was a warehouse with a full-scale you know, processing facility that was processing the fentanyl and packaging it up and sending it out. And it's just incredible to me that something like that can. I mean, there's no possible way that nobody in the government knew that thing was there. It's just not. It's not possible. They had to have known, right?
Yeah, that happened under the administration of AMLO. The thing that you're talking about, it was a piece of land of 40 acres, Chuck. More than 40 acres of territory that they were found more than 700 million doses of methamphetamine, also with ovens, all kinds of utensils, all kinds of, things that you don't even imagine to make fentanyl. But the most aggravating thing is that, more than 700 million doses of methamphetamine were found right there, that they were confiscated and that they were seized, plus the 40 acres of property, Chuck, 40 acres of property to make fentanyl. And the ideology of the cartel, it is one of the things that it should be preoccupying to the American people and to the Trump administration. The ideology of the cartel is, this is for the gringos. This is not for us. So every single little population in the high parts of the mountains in Durango, in Zacatecas, in Culiacan, in Michoacan, Guerrero, they absolutely know that the consume, it is not for them. It is for the American people. So that is one of the reasons why this needs to be in full effect. They need to let in the troops.
That's really amazing. Now, let's pivot a little bit and talk about the what you're finding with the mass graves. This guy, the butcher you've been talking about, who is responsible for many murders and dissolving bodies in acid, and all of that. Talk a little bit about that story.
Well, we have an aggravating problem in Mexico right now, is the missing people, and missing people that they have found in multiple mass graves. And the whole country, Chuck, it is a whole mass grave. The whole country, it is a mass grave. And the way that they have, operated the cartel, how they were doing, and what they're doing, it is that they're basically abducting innocent people. They're putting them in the front lines to fight the opposition cartel, or they're using them to do hits, homicides, intentional homicides, kidnappings, and extortions. And then after that, they take away their lives and they put them on this mass graves. This guy, the butcher, was a story from years ago, and he used to work for an organized crime in the cartel. And his process to eliminate and eradicate the evidence was to put bodies on barrels of acid, sulfuric acid, eliminate the evidence through this whole mass grave. And it was in this place that we visited, more than 700 bodies were right there on that mass grave. And the bone fragments, or the remains of the body parts, he will dispose them on another part of the land. The whole premises was a whole evil's, Satan's territory, Chuck. On one house, he had the entrance to the kidnapping. On another house, he had the torture room where he used to torture them and then kill them. And then lastly, he will have the other house where he used to dissolve them. So we talked to one of the leaders that have found this place, and it was an actual father that lost his son on this particular horrible place. And the way that he explains everything, it is just completely saddening. And what he had to do, Chuck, to fight the corrupt government, he only had his high school, so he had to go and study law so he can defend himself to find this, to find justice for his son. So imagine how corrupt the system is in Mexico, that he had to become a lawyer so he can defend his son to find him.
Where is this guy right now?
The activist, he's in Tijuana.
No, I'm talking about the butcher guy.
He's in prison in the city of Mexico. He just finished his sentence, but he was resentenced again for 30 years. But the craziest thing, Chuck, that he was not resentenced for the dissolving of bodies. He was just resentenced for conspiracy to distribute and the organized crime. How corrupt the country is. It's amazing. You should. We don't have death penalty, but if he was in the United States, believe me, he would have got it immediately.
That's crazy. Hang on a second. Is my audio strange to you?
No, it's good right now.
Sounds good. Yeah. Some people are saying that they're getting an echo. but I just changed mics, so maybe that'll help.
You're live?
Yeah, I'm live.
Yeah.
Now, let's talk more about the child soldiers thing. You told me they've been going into high schools,
Yeah.
recruiting kids. Now, this
Yep.
is common. This is something we've seen in that criminals do all around the world. They even like in Panama, the gangs will recruit young boys, give them guns, drive them to a restaurant or someplace, send the boys inside to rob everybody in the restaurant, and then they come out and jump in the car and get away. They do that because it makes it less likely they will get caught and put in jail. If anybody gets caught, it'll be the kids. They make the kids do the actual crime, so they'll be the ones that charge. And if they get killed, they'll just go find some more. This is something that we saw ISIS do. It's something that Hamas does. It's something that gangs in Haiti do. It's just very, very common. How did you find out about this, and what are you trying to do to get the word out?
So we started going to these collective groups, these search groups. Let's just say it like that. Search groups of family members, and one of them, there was two children missing. One of them was 13, and the other one was 15. And this lady by the name of Valerie, she's in charge of this search group. It's called Armadillos. She told me, Oscar, we're searching for 4. We found 2, and they were in a mass grave. So what they're doing, and this is why I have said, Chuck, that under the Biden administration, the cartel grew 2 times in technology. It is because the cartel is using influencers and bloggers now. And now what they're doing is they're recruiting through social media. So this case over here is one of hundreds of cases. They put a really, they sell, practically a female minor into social media wearing exotic clothing, carrying high artillery. She provokes the young kids to message her. And then this, teenager tells them, hey, you're going to get paid this exacerbated amounts of money for you to just do this job, homicide, extortion, la, la, la. They send them to do the job. And then when they don't have no need for them, they dispose them and they take away their lives, and then they bury them in random and rural areas. This is happening in junior high schools. They're going to the schools and they're actually recruiting and using female teenagers to recruit these young teenagers and to make them go and fight for the opposition. A lot of them, they get abducted. A lot of them, they get kidnapped. A lot of them, they voluntarily, because, do we have a problem also with parents, Chuck? It's a lot of that has to do with what the education of the home.
Yeah, and it's in the culture. It's in the music. Yeah. I mean, they've got these folk songs that they sing about El Chapo.
Narco corridos. Yeah.
Narco corridos is what those are called. Huh?
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Specifically.
Those are what's your favorite narco corrido? You want to sing them for us?
No. They're anti-constitutional, Chuck. We're trying to get rid of them.
But it's kind of like the rap music that inner city kids listen to, that's just very violent and encourages criminality. And so obviously there's a cultural issue there that's got to be addressed. Yeah. Now, somebody's asking in the chat, how much funding and influence does Qatar or Hamas or Hezbollah have? Are they involved at all? Have you found any evidence of that in Mexico?
Well, if we go back to the 90s and the early 2000s, it was speculated, but it's, all these speculations, they're not speculations because they have found a lot of evidence. One of the, the organizations over here that is called Arellano Felix, they brought, certain particular people from the Middle East. Specifically, they're talking about Taliban to train them how to do tunnels and also to train them how to do explosives. If they were in a particular area where war zones, not too long before that speculation started getting stronger. Later on, certain attacks, Chuck, that particularly resembled to what they were doing in the Middle East started happening in every border, and it started happening,
car bombs and stuff like that.
Exactly.
Right. I've done some reporting on that, and we've found evidence of Hezbollah, especially in Latin America, in Venezuela, in Uruguay, places like that, where kind of what do they call it, tri-country region or whatever. Denver, Uruguay, Paraguay. Yeah.
Mhm.
And without a doubt, Hezbollah has been engaged in training and recruiting and business transactions across Latin America. But I would not be surprised whatsoever if China was involved in flying advisors over, working with the cartels, helping them get the equipment that they need to process the fentanyl and get it into the United States. And that's one thing that I've noticed. I've heard people since Trump took office say, they're not seeing any mules, people carrying backpacks full of drugs coming across the border, at least not as many as they were. And I'm saying they don't need as many, because you can carry 2 kilos of fentanyl and make $1 million on the street. I mean, once that gets cut, and before they would have had to take a truckload of cocaine to do the same thing. So they don't need near as many people. Obviously, there is still quite a bit coming across. The cartels are being hurt financially by the decline in the number of illegal immigrants coming across. So talk about what you found with how the cartels made money on the illegal migrants from Joe Biden, and then how they've pivoted from that to what they're doing more of now.
No, and just you asked me a question before, real quick, Chuck. We're trying to go to junior high schools now to speak
Uh-huh.
publicly and to the minors and to explain to them, stay out of trouble. And we're trying to, we're trying to, do presentations in junior high schools. That's what we're going to start doing to get them out of this, situation that they're being provoked. So just going back to that, Chuck. The Trump administration closed the gap, and that immediately hurt them in the pockets, and that has pivoted to inner violence, and that is what we are seeing. We talked about that months ago. If that was going to be an industry that it was going to be shut down, we were going to see inner violence in inner cities and important cities and border towns, and that is actually what is happening. Just this week, Chuck, just talking about this week in Tijuana, there has been 12 murders. One of them was atrocious. They put a body inside of a refrigerator. They just offload this body out of a pickup truck and let it, on the side of the road. And the other one was just yesterday. 6 people were shot. 4 people were, immediately diagnosed as being murdered immediately, and the other 2 were critically hurt. So it's the inner violence. It is growing. When it was under the Biden administration, you will see this enormous influx of all types of trafficking: children, organs, people, money, drugs, massively, because the border was wide open. Now that you're cutting them and you're hurting them, actually it is provoking the government of Mexico, and it is exposing the government of Mexico of the inner problems that they're having, because they shut down the border. Now you're seeing how they're fighting among each other, and why the government of Mexico is not doing anything about it. And this is why they're getting massively exposed all over the world, that the cartel actually is the one that has, the power of decision in the government of our country.
Now, I saw just recently, like last week, there was a young female social media influencer who was murdered while she was doing a live stream in Mexico. Can you tell me more about that story? What happened there?
Valeria Marquez, yeah, she was, a model. She used to appear on, these narco corrido groups videos, and she was the girlfriend of one of these drug lords of the CJNG. And apparently, she has said multiple times on videos on her thousands of viewers that she wanted out, that she wanted to leave this lifestyle and all this kind of stuff. But apparently, there was a romance issue with the drug lord and some other individuals, and that really triggered this man to send a sicario to do this hit on a live with thousands of people watching, Chuck. And it's horrible. You get to understand this, that it's actually happening, and that it can happen to anybody. They can open the door and go in there and happen. They in Culiacan, they have assassinated 7 influencers and bloggers. So it tells you how the level of what they're doing with them, and how they're using them to pull in, also exploitation of women, trafficking of people. and ultimately money laundering. That is what they do with them. But yes, it was really viral. It was a really, viral case in the country of Mexico, categorized as a feminicidio. That is kind of like a feminicide. That is a new term in Mexico for assassination towards women. That is another term to decrease the level of homicides into a complete, term of just, it was just an intentional homicide.
Yeah, we've seen that all over. The government loves to reclassify things when the numbers start to look bad. They just reclassify it and rejigger the way that they calculate the numbers. And no, look, it's better. Obviously, Biden did that with the CBP-1 app by flying people directly into the country instead of showing up at the border and crossing illegally. They were able to say, "Oh, look, the number of encounters at the border are down." Yeah, because you're flying them directly in. We saw that under the Obama administration with the U.S. unemployment rate, as the unemployment rate got bad enough that it made him look bad. They just changed the way that they calculate unemployment by stop counting the people who have just completely given up and aren't even looking for work anymore. Those used to be part of the unemployment numbers. Now they're not, and voila! Wow, the employment numbers look so much better. Similar things with the homicide rate in the United States in many Democrat-run cities, et cetera, et cetera. So this is a common playbook with politicians, and that's why I think it's so important to have people like you down there who can kind of help us understand the reality of what's happening on the ground. There's the saying, I think it was Mark Twain that said, there are lies, damn lies, and statistics. Those are the three levels of lying. And when the government starts pulling out statistics, you better be skeptical without a doubt. So we've heard a lot throughout my career about this plomo or plata that the cartels engage in, where they go to politician or somebody important and say, you can take the silver or you can take the lead, plomo or plata. And is that still happening? Is that still going on with major politicians?
They just assassinated 3 weeks ago. I think it was 3 weeks ago, Chuck, a political candidate for mayor in a part of Veracruz. She was in the middle of a rally. There was a shootout. There was a direct intent to assassinate her. And did that intent, they assassinated other three people. And in a morning conference, Chuck, with the head chief of security, Omar Harfuch, the president of Mexico, received the news that, the secretary for government of the city of Mexico was also assassinated on site with, her assistant. So this is, still continuing. The cartel has the audacity to say, if you don't align with our policies or without, with what we are telling you how we're going to manage the state or municipal city, this is going to happen to you. So it has been escalating on that factor.
Wow, amazing. So my biggest question for you is, when are you moving out of Mexico? Because you are obviously in probably the most dangerous job on the planet. Being a journalist in Mexico has about the same lifespan as a banana. So what is holding you back? Or how come you haven't moved yet?
Well, we're trying to do that, Chuck, right now. I moved from last time. I moved from, the shootout that it was in the back of my house. I had to move. So now, we are planning to move absolutely not just outside of the city. We're trying to move outside of the country. This is not going to get better. This 6 years in this country is going to get worse. We're seeing the violence escalating in the city of Tijuana. Ultimately, we're seeing that there has been threats to journalists. Just last week, they threatened a female journalist that she's a colleague of mine, Ms. Navarro, because she's exposing the governor of Baja being in cahoots with the organized crime and these money laundering accounts. So it is going to get more aggravating. If you don't align to what they tell you, and if you don't align to what the narrative of them, they will immediately send threats, and that is not too far away from happening. So we're trying to do that as fast as we can, Chuck, and as soon as we can.
Wow. So Mama Rissa posted in the chat where you can support Oscar by going to buymeacoffee.com/OscarBlue.
Thank you.
And I would encourage you to do that. Help Oscar raise the money he needs to get out of his house and move out of the country, and he can continue to do his job with his family in a safer location. You had a firefight in your backyard not long ago. Some of the people watching obviously haven't heard that story. Why don't you catch us up on that?
Well, there was a guy that it was. Uh,
Whoop.
Am I there, Chuck?
Hang on.
Yes.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yes. Yes, there was a guy that was running away from the authorities. He escaped from the authorities of the United States of a homicide. He was a homicide killer, and he was hiding behind my house, Chuck. The authorities came over. It was a shootout. He assassinated a police.
Somebody's
Am I
calling
there?
you. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Keep
yes.
going.
He assassinated and killed a police officer in a police operation, and he jumped through my backyard, and it started running. So that some of the bullets hit the back of my house, and it was just immediately for me to say it's time to go. So we don't even know what kind of people we have behind our house or in front of our house. Then
Yeah.
later on, the guy was captured. 10 days after.
And you don't live in a bad neighborhood. I mean, as far as
No.
Tijuana goes, there's much worse places you could be.
Yes.
But still, that's crazy. Somebody's asking in the chat, how much is the CIA involved in the cartel drug smuggling? They've been involved before with drug smuggling in the past. There's a lot of urban legend around the CIA being involved in smuggling cocaine into the United States. I think that is overblown. I don't think the CIA was heavily involved in trafficking drugs into the U.S. I think that at one point in the 1980s, they were using airplanes to get weapons to the Contras in Nicaragua, that the pilots of those planes then tried to double their money by filling their planes up with drugs on the way back to the United States, unbeknownst, or at least the U.S. looked the other way. I'm not sure exactly how much of that is true. Do you know? Are there rumors of the CIA being involved in the drug trade? I mean, it doesn't make sense to me that the CIA, whose job it is to protect Americans, would be assisting drug runners in killing Americans. I mean, it's just there's no rhyme or reason to that.
Well, there's always a speculation, right, Chuck? There's always a speculation that the cartel always has, these agreements behind closed doors where DEA, corrupt officials, or CIA corrupt agents, which is also speculation. But just American audience to understand how the cartel is so, blunt and they don't care. They corruptedly, convinced 3 Customs and Border Protection agents to work for them, and these Customs and Border Protection agents were letting in vehicles with illegal aliens that they were paying exacerbated quantities of money between $20,000 to $25,000 to cross them there. So, there's a lot of corruption, but we cannot assure what we don't see. It's just always a speculation of what is happening. In several parts.
Yeah, I'm not in any way insinuating that the CIA was pure as the driven snow or anything. But like I say, I think a lot of that falls into the category of urban legend and conspiracy theory, and
Yes.
like you say, I mean, it may in fact exist, but the actual proof of it existing is few and far between. It's harder to come by, and so I think we have to be careful about assuming that the CIA is out to kill Americans by trafficking fentanyl across the border. That doesn't follow. I don't think that makes a lot of sense.
And believe me, I will not be saying it living in Mexico. So
Of course.
even if I knew, I would not even be saying it.
Right. Yeah, that's right. And so talk about that. I mean, you have to be careful about the things you report on, what you say, how you say it sometimes, and you've actually been warned before, haven't you?
Yes, multiple times, Chuck. The dangers that we go through. I had multiple encounters with, coyotes, traffickers in the mountains, and multiple times they have followed me to my locations. They have stopped me in gas stations and tell me, you know what, you better slow down. I don't want you here anymore. I don't want you to come back here anymore. We have to be extremely careful with our language. A lot of the people in the lives or in the reports that I do, they correct me. They say you should say this, you should say that, and I wish that I can say it, but it's just part of my protection, so I can release a report. Some of the times I cannot say it completely transparent because I'm taking care of what I'm my own security, and that's one of the things that it prohibits me to expand more and to open up more on language and to say this is the way it is supposed to be. I wish that I can say that, but I will create a major bullseye. And immediately, these people will not let you know that they're coming with a phone call. They will just appear in your front house. They will tell you, get your things, get out, and say goodbye to your family. And that's the way
Wow.
they handle things.
Wow. Well, you're doing great work,
Thank you,
and
Chuck.
we need more people like you. So I would encourage everybody to go and find Oscar Blue Ramirez on YouTube, on X. Where can they find you on YouTube?
Oscar Ramirez on YouTube, and Oscar Ramirez also on X, and Oscar Blue Ramirez on Instagram. Also, they can find me there, Chuck. OscarBlueRamirez.com also in the webpage. Also, I post right there in news.
You've got some really good documentaries that have won awards. I would encourage people to go watch your documentaries about going through the Darien Gap. It's fascinating stuff. And so let's end on that. In the Darien now, they just closed the Las Blancas camp down there for there's nobody there, nobody coming through now. Isn't that crazy to see how easily that walkway, through the what they call that, um, the sendero going through the Darien Gap
Tapón del Darien.
was was shut down when all throughout the Biden administration they said we can't. There's nothing we can do. We just have to try to make it safer and easier and quicker for them to come through, and they just shut it down like that overnight.
Well, yeah, it's amazing. For a lot of people that they don't know, I crossed that jungle with Ben 4 times. But I have to say this because a lot of people, I'm going to release a documentary. A lot of people do not know the real story. The way that we got in later on, it was an open relationship with the authorities of Panama. But the number one person that led us and opened us the door was Chuck Holton. He was the one that arranged the first trip to go in there. If it wasn't for Chuck, we wouldn't even have the possibility to create a relationship, with the authorities of Panama. So thanks to Chuck, we went in there. And after, the second trip, third trip, fourth trip, we started expanding and having a beautiful relationship with the Panamanian people. We did our job. It will be for me right now, Chuck, to walk that way and to walk the Darien. I will be more concerned right now to walk there when there's no people in there than to walk when there was thousands of people. And I have talked to agents from Centerfront that they're still patrolling that area. They said that they're more concerned because the territory is not as transit as it was. It's not as open, so the rivers have taken over the places where the migrants used to walk. The wildlife is coming down, so you have a lot of wild pigs. You have a lot of these wild animals coming down now, and they're extremely aggressive because they're trying to recuperate their territory, which it was theirs. And it's just shocking for me. It will be shocking because I was.
No, another phone call.
I'm sorry about that, Chuck.
Go ahead.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
at one time I was in that migrant camp at Las Blancas, and there was approximately around 7,000 to 8,000 people there stuck. Even Matthew Tomlin, a brother of ours, was there, and it was just shocking. It was just in a minute that can actually collapse and blow up. And for me to just see that it's completely shut down, not even one person there, it's just shocking. It's shocking and amazing. And what can administrations do to actually shut down all of that? There's a lot of people that they have worked hard for that to happen, and for the American people to understand the Panamanians never wanted this. Never wanted this to happen to their land, to their territory. There are more than 60 tons of trash inside that jungle. That jungle is completely, almost 80 to 90% destroyed and entirely in the middle parts. It's just a complete devastation.
It really is. The environmental devastation was just incredible to see going through there. So,
Yeah.
well, I'm glad that is over. It's like I say, it's amazing how just through force of will they were able to stop it, and all it took was a guy named President Trump to declare it over, and it was over.
Yep.
So kudos to him for that. All right. Well, thank you very much for being on with us. I appreciate you taking some time on your Saturday. I know you're a busy man, but hopefully we can see you in Israel when we go back there in July. So start saving your shekels. If Oscar can raise enough money, he will accompany us to Israel when I go back first part of July for a month. And so you can help Oscar by going to buymeacoffee.com/Oscar Blue Ramirez, I believe is the link.
It will be an honor for me, Chuck, to go again with you to Israel, and more than you that knows actually, for me, in my eyes, my mentor and the best war correspondent out there. So it will be an honor for me to be over there in Israel with you.
That'd be great. Well, we've had a lot of fun over there, but boy, the war is not over by any stretch, and there's more stuff to talk about. So
Yes.
We'll be busy if we go. Folks, make sure that you like and subscribe to the podcast here on YouTube and on X, at Ranger Holton on X, and at the Hot Zone Podcast on YouTube. And also go over to Oscar's page as well. You can also go to chuckholton.com. I'm going to be traveling for the next few days, so you may not have a lot of live broadcasts until, I don't know, might be as much as a week. I'm going to be taking a few days off and taking my wife to northern Italy to go hiking. So I'll try to put up as much content as I can, and it'll be beautiful, fun, sort of light-hearted content. But if anything major happens, you can bet we'll be reporting live on it for you here on the Hot Zone on YouTube. So thank you very much for watching, folks. I appreciate all of you. God bless you all, and que Dios le bendiga. Take care.